Okay, now it is for the real part 6. Apparently I got confused on the last video and gave the wrong part. So we are working on our, let's see if I move back, our sweater. We finished, we got the shoulder seamed, we have the arms put together, and we have 2 of those done. So now we are going to start actually connecting these to be a sweater. The next step is going to be adding width to the back panel. So I completed this one already, but you can see how that's going to look. And we're adding it to the back panel only. And then we're going to, again, it's symmetrical. So I'm going to do the same thing I did over here on my other one. And then we're going to sew them together. Once that's done, we're going to have 2 pieces sewed together, which will be much closer to a finished result at that point. So the first thing what you want to be careful of is on your second one, you want to make sure you're actually getting the back. So we still have both of these inside out. Now I completed this one just so I could show the example. And so when I look at this one, I'm just going to kind of like pretend I'm wearing it and make sure that I grab the back. I've done it backwards before, no big deal. You just have to unsew it or unravel it and redo it. But that's that. So this is my back. Okay. So you're going to take your yarn and attach it in the corner chain space. Now that can be either here or on this end, but you'll do the opposite start. So on my other one, I started on this corner, so I'm starting here. So we're going to attach our yarn. Once we have the yarn attached, we're going to basically just work down the row of the sweater. So for the first row, we're going to start with a chain 3. And then we're going to double crochet 1 time in the same chain space. And then we are going to put 3 double crochets in each chain space all the way to the end, as per usual. Okay, so we've made it all the way to the end of row 1. We're not going to make new corners anymore because we're going to go back and forth instead of around. So when you get to the end, which is your corner, you're just going to put 3 double crochet in this corner. 2 double crochet in this corner. 2 in the corner. 2 double crochet. And then we're going to start row 2. So for row 2, we're going to start it by chaining 3, which is always our make pretend double crochet. We're going to turn it, and we're going to skip over this. So it's like a baby cluster. We're going to skip over this and go into the chain space and do 3 double crochet. And again, continue all the way down to the end with 3 double crochets in each chain space. End of row 2, we have just our little baby twofer. One was a chain 3, one was a double crochet. And what we're going to do at the end of row 2 is we are going to double crochet 1 in between these 2. 1 double crochet in between those 2. Then we're going to start row 3, which is going to be chain 3, turn, and now this time we don't have 2 like we did on the last row, we only have 1. So what we're going to do is put a double crochet in there. And look at that, we made a little 2 baby cluster. Now rows 3 and 4 are the repeat rows. So this is row 3. I'm going to do my double crochet, or 3 double crochets in each chain space all the way across. Again. At the end of row 3, we have our cluster, and then we just have our little chain 3 here. So we are going to put 2 double crochets in the top of this guy. Now these are your repeat rows. 3 and 4 are your repeat. So this was row 3. Now we're going to start row 4. I'm only going to do 4 rows on the back. That's usually what I do depending on what size the cardigan is going to be. At any point you can put stitch markers on them and put it on and see how wide it is if you like it. But just remember, we will also be adding some width to the front as we do length and trim. So just keep that in mind. So anyways, row 3 is finished. This is row 4. Chain 3, of course, turn, skip, you have your little twofer, skip this guy and put your 3 double crochets into each chain space all the way down. Okay, end of row 4. We're going to put, we have our little twofer here. We're going to put 1 double crochet in between here. Now, if you want more width, just keep doing row 3 and 4 back and forth until it's as wide as you want. I recommend doing the same amount of rows on each sweater. It makes it look a lot more symmetrical, or on each hexagon, it'll make it look a lot more symmetrical. And then when we sew them together, there will be the sew line in the middle. So now I'm going to fasten off because I only want 4 rows on each one. I shouldn't have fastened off, I just realized. Because what we could have done is just kept going with the same yarn, but it doesn't matter. So now what I'm going to do is figure out my 2 halves. I'll move back so you can actually see. So I'm going to, again, figure out how these are going to go. And these are my 2 ends. Now you can sew these together any way you want. I recently kind of learned a different way that I end up really liking because I think it looks a little more smooth on transition. If you want to just slip stitch all these together, great. But before you start, make sure you're inside out, which you can tell because of the single crochet seam on the shoulders, and make sure that you have the backs lined up properly so they will be a sweater. I emphasize this so much because I tend to often make an easy mistake. So now I'm holding the 2 back pieces together. Now you can kind of start where you'd like. I like to start on this bottom corner. Don't ask me why. Okay? And essentially, we're going to kind of make it look, I don't know how to word it, but it's a nice transition when we do this. So I'm gonna put this down just so you can kind of see. Okay, so I have 2, I just kind of folded them together, but this is one half, this is the other half. Back, back. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be on this side, I'm gonna be doing like a granny stitch, and then I'm gonna pick up the back and slip stitch it as I go. This will hopefully make sense once we get started. So I'm going to attach my yarn. Everyone has their method for attaching yarn. I personally just prefer to use a knot. I know it's not as seamless, but I try to I try to crochet over the knots and make sure that it's clean by the time I'm at the end. Okay, so once I have my yarn attached, so the first one, I'm just going to do a chain 3. That's my back panel. Then I'm going to pick up this other back panel and I'm going to find the same spot here in the corner and I'm going to slip stitch. Now normally you just do, I'm going to do 2 just because I like it to be a little more sturdy. So I'm going to, in the same spot, I'm going to do a double crochet and then I'm going to slip stitch in this other one again. Now it's a kind of an awkward motion, slip stitching backwards like that. So what you can see is I did my 2 and then slip stitch to this. You can just do the chain 3 if you want. I just prefer to add a second one. So now I'm going to leave the slip stitching panel down and I'm going to come back up to my working panel and I'm going to come to my next chain space and I'm going to put 3 double crochet as per usual. There's my 3 double crochet, and then I'm going to find the first chain space on my other piece and slip stitch through it. Okay, and then I'm coming back up to my front one. Call it front, back, working, non-working, slip stitch, stitchable, whatever you want to call them. Just distinguish them in your head. And I'm going to do 3 double crochet. And then I'm going to pick up the corresponding chain space from the one behind, which is you can tell by, it's not the one you just did, it's the next one. And as long as all of that's what I like about this is you don't really have to count so much. So as long as everything was symmetrical from the get-go, you should end up with the right amount here. Okay, so now I'm coming back to my next chain space and I'm doing 3 double crochet. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that corresponding chain space on the other side. Take your time here and look, make sure you're getting the right one. I often tend to rush because I have 0 patience. Okay, next, 3 double crochet. The nice thing about this is you can vary it however you want. Ultimately, it's going to be a put together sweater. So I'm showing how I like to do it, but you can make changes wherever you feel needed. Hopefully it's just a helpful guide. Okay, so I just learned this connecting method. And what I like about it is that it shows, it kind of looks uniform as you go through. Now the bottom part, and I haven't really figured out a solution to this, but the bottom part always looks a little bit off. We'll fix that when we do our trim though. But it doesn't ever line up exactly perfect. Okay, so continue this method until we get to the end. We are at the end. I keep sitting too close, sorry, we're at the end of our connecting row. We've done this all the way across, and all I have left is a cluster and then my lonely one on each side. So I'm just gonna put a double crochet in here. One of them, and then I'm going to slip stitch into this one, maybe. Okay, then I'm going to fasten off. Grab my scissors. Okay, and at this point we have a connected sweater. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to take my jacket off. Let's try it on and see how it looks. I'm trying it on throughout the process using stitch markers and this and that, you know, depending on the size you're making it. So as of now, in the back, so there's, technically this could be a cropped thing. It's not my style. The sleeves really aren't loose at all. So again, you could make your original cardigan bigger to have bigger sleeves. You could not do this, but my intention with this one is to make it like a baggy hoodie, but not too baggy on the arms. So that, now we're gonna be working to just finish this up. And then if you look, the reason why I like that join method is just because it looks kind of seamless with the pattern. Now the only thing that ends up coming out weird, and I don't know why, but every time this bottom part seems to not quite be exactly straight. See right here? But we'll kind of work on that when we start doing the trim. So the next video is going to be part 7. We have probably 2 more sections left. The next is just going to be adding length because I don't want this cropped. If you want yours cropped, you can be done here. I don't want to have it cropped. I want mine long. So I will do part 7 where we show how to add the length. Very simple, but I'm just keeping these separate so you don't have to watch the whole video if you just need help with a certain part. Thank you.